Okay, hello, and welcome to I Choose Me Healing Ministry. It is every Saturday at 7 p.m. where we come together and we get a word on how we can refill on ourselves, what we can do on this Sabbath. And so I decided that I would do it every Saturday at 7 p.m. right here in Berwick Town Center Drive. Right? Am I saying that right, you guys? Is it? It is 4900, right? 4900 Berwick Town Center Drive, and so it's outside. I moved it from Saturdays at 11 to Sundays at. I moved it from. Hold on one second. I don't know how. So let me take this. I think it's my earpiece. When I got this earpiece and it's playing all kind of music in my ear. Hopefully y'all can hear me without the earpiece because I can't figure out what is it picking up from. So I'm gonna just leave that off and I'm gonna speak right to you and hopefully the sound is clear enough for you that you can hear everything that I'm saying. And I know you guys, y'all can hear me, right? Good and clear. Okay, perfectly. So today message, we actually don't know what it's gonna be because I like to see where God would lead us to. And so, you want to open up, boo? And then wherever you open up, I'll look it up in the broken down Bible. That way I can make it make sense. You can hold it and go sit down. I'm going to look it up. Once you tell me what, I'm going to go open this up to that chapter. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, I hope you guys are having an amazing Saturday. The reason why I think the Sabbath service is so important is because I think that Sabbath is about you being able to rest and being enough. And we go so often, day after day, even in the beginning when God created the whole world, he rested on the seventh day, and they call that the Sabbath day. And I think that's what's so important about it is that, it stresses that the only thing that God did to create everything was speak life into existence. So when we're talking about the Sabbath and what that looks like and what are we resting in on that day, we're really resting in being enough. We're resting in our thoughts because everything that God created, he just spoke it into existence, right? He wanted there to be light. He said, let there be light, and it was so, right? And so that meant that he had to get his mindset in order. He had to get his dreams in order. He had to get his faith in order, right? And so that's the example. So even God being as powerful as he is, he needed to rest even in his thoughts on one day out of the week. And so that's what the Sabbath represents. It represents that we are 70% made of water, which means that we hold the memory of everything, the traumas, life experiences, our day-to-day responsibilities to the world. And in that transit, in that process of moving day to day in the world, the hardest thing to do is to feel validated, to feel worthy, to feel enough. And so the way we feel enough is rest in all the things that we've accomplished thus far. So when we think about what we accomplished, what we've done, how we have made it up until the point that we have made it, that's what we are celebrating. We are celebrating the will to keep on going. We are celebrating that nothing stopped us from the journey. We are celebrating that in all of those deficits, we found a way to surplus into who we were becoming. We found a way to love ourselves through whatever that circumstance was. And that is what we sit in on the Sabbath, is releasing the things that we cannot change in order to celebrate the part that made all those other things possible, right? And so you got to change your mindset. You got to change your thought. You got to change your feelings in order to get into your healing. And that's all seeds of mindset, seeds of thought, seeds of making sure that you are taking the time to fix the things that wounded you, to fix the things that hurt you, and to stop the past from interfering with your future, right? Because until I can become present, until I can find myself worthy, worth the yes, it's going to be hard for me to show up in my assignment and get into alignment. And one of the things to allow you to do that is taking your Sabbath, taking that day to celebrate you 24/7. So the rest of the 6 days, you know that you have what it takes to challenge yourself, to learn new things about yourself, to not get it right every single time, but to celebrate that you never gave up the journey and the process. So that's what I want us to understand, what it means to I choose me. It means to fall in love with yourself. It means to, as they say in the commandments, right? It means to love thy neighbor as thyself. That means I got to fall in love with me in order to have what I need for you. So let's not forget that when we are operating in I Choose Me Healing Ministry. It means that there are no walls, floors, or ceilings to what God can do through you when you choose you. So, did you find us? Where am I going? Job. Oh Lord, not Job. Job what? Job 42. Mm-hmm. So we going to Job 42, right? That what you said? All right, Job 42. Okay, now. So this is what the message is for today. And let me tell y'all something. The one thing I love about Job is that it reminds me, if you look at how it's spelled job. And we know, if you know the story of Job, you know that's the story of how, he lost everything, right? Just to prove that he was faithful and that the devil couldn't rob him of his connection to God, no matter how hard it got, no matter what the circumstances looked like, that he would go through hell and back, if we should say, just to prove his loyalty and commitment to God the Father. And so we are put in Job responds to the Lord. So Job 42, it says, then Job replied to the Lord, I know that you can do anything, and no one can stop you. You ask, who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorance? It is I. And I was talking about things I did not understand, things far too wonderful for me. You said, listen, and I will speak. I have some questions for you, and you must answer them. I had heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. I take back everything I said, and I sit in dust and ashes to show my repentance. Come on now. I think that's all we need to speak on. Conclusion, the Lord blesses Job. After the Lord had finished speaking to Job, he said to Eliphaz and Temanite, I am angry with you and with your two friends, for you have not been right in what you said about me and my servant Job was. Now take 7 young bulls and 7 rams and go to my servant Job and offer a burnt offering for yourselves, right? My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer on your behalf. I will not treat you as you deserve, for you have not been right in what you said about me, as my servant Job was. So he went on. When Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes. In fact, the Lord gave him twice as much as before. Then all his brothers, sisters, and former friends came and feasted with him in his home. And they consoled him and comforted him because of all of the trials the Lord had brought against him. And each of them brought him a gift of money and gold ring. So the Lord blessed Job in the second half. I want us to finish this. So the Lord blessed Job in the second half of his life, even more than in the beginning. For now he had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 teams of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also gave Job 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. He named his first daughter Jemimah, and second Keziah, and the third one Karen Hapuch. In all of the land, there were no other woman as lovely as the daughters of Job. And their father put them in his will along with their brothers. Job lived 140 years after that, living to see 4 generations of his children and grandchildren. Then he died an old man who had lived a long, good life. You know what I love about the part that we got brought to in Job, because everybody knows the whole story. I mean, if you don't know the story, you got to go back and read Job, but it takes you through the journey of all that he lost, all that he suffered, all that he had to go through just because, God, I mean, the devil was coming to God. Like, I know you got all these people, but I'm telling you, Job, God allowed the devil to mess with Job, right? Because Job was so committed to God, he lost so much in the process of proving his loyalty to God. But what I love about us starting in verse 42, the 4 and the 2, y'all know I love numbers, which is the 6. On the sixth day, God created us, right, in his image, right? And so the sixth day is going to represent the assignment that is attached to our lives. So we go through the story, if you read it already, about Job and all that he lost and all that he suffered through. But what is said here is that in all that he lost and all that he suffered through, and that's the journey of all of our lives, right? That is the price of admission. It wasn't until the second half that he got so much more than he lost, right? It wasn't until the second half. So what does that mean? In order for him to get to the second half, in order to reap the benefits and to get more legacy, give more offspring, and be able to operate and get so much more than what he lost during the process of going into the promise. What was so powerful about the story is that even in all of that, he never gave up. And all of that, he never stopped believing. He never uh, surrendered to fear, right? He believed consistently that God was merciful, that he was worthy, and that nothing that came to him would rob him of his story, his glory, and where he was going, right? He didn't allow it to hurt him, to hinder him, to stop him. And I think that's what's so important about all of us when we think about our journeys. What our journey represent is the test in life that allows us to be the evidence so that when people are so astonished by the promise, right? They said Job lives 140 years after that moment, right? And the 140, the 1 and the 4 is the 5, which is God's grace. He put so much grace on the space because of how he showed up in spite of what it looks like, right? So he got to be the example of what it means to be committed to the assignment, right? What it means to go through hell and back and still believe that you are worthy, believe that God has his hand still on you, believe that what you are doing and what you are enduring is all about the test of time, right? So that you can become who God called you to be. And so many of us have suffered from losses. Many of us know what it is to feel like Job, right? And many of us are waiting for that second half of the season. Many of us are waiting for us to reap the benefits for all the investments that were made when we were doing it afraid, when we were doing it feeling fearful, when we were doing it feeling unworthy, when we were doing it feeling incomplete because it was attached to our namesake. It was the job that we had to show up to every day and it wasn't serving us, but we knew we needed to do it for who we had to be. It was the family that we had to keep on giving ourselves and surrendering our feelings to over and over again to commit to what it ever that was that we were trying to process through, right? It was the children who we thought, oh my goodness, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You should be doing A, B, C, and the third because I've invested so much in you. I'm expecting a great return. It doesn't matter what it was that was stopping you from seeing the glory of God. That it felt like it was a Job situation. It felt like no matter what was going on, something else. You ever be living your life and you're like, oh my God, not another thing. Oh my God, not another thing. But I want to just remind you that every time there's another thing, you got to understand that God is building your spiritual muscle because he understands the weight of what is going to cost you to stand up in his promise. He understands the weight of what is going to cost you to trust him, even when it looks like things are not the way they are supposed to be. Even when you feel like I have given my best and I have given my last and I'm always serving, always showing up, and I can't understand why life just keeps on hitting me and keeps on knocking me off my feet. It is because God called you for such a legacy. It is because he called you for such a destiny that requires that you get strong enough for the levels of glory to glory to glory, because he understands that you have so much more left in you. And that once you get through this stage, once you get through these situations, once you embrace this process, that you get to become the promise, that you get to be assigned to somebody. The most powerful thing about the story of Job is that we got to read it. We got to read about something that may sound familiar to your life, right? It was a testimony of something that will give you inspiration, because you're like, my God, what kind of faithful man is that to go through all of that and still trust God? What kind of faithful man is that to deal with all of that and still keep on showing up and saying, God, I trust you no matter what they put on me, no matter what I endure. I trust you because I know that I am my freedom. I know that I am the answer. I know that I get to be your special evidence of what it looks like to keep on serving you in spite of what it looks like. And so when you show up for God, in spite of what life looks like, in spite of what everybody else says, you got to always remember that they are watching you. And because they are watching you, they are still learning and they are being inspired by you unconsciously. So every time you read the book of Job, it can inspire you to say, wow, I know I've been through something, but it ain't been like that. You ever hear somebody tell a testimony, you want to sit back in your seat and find gratitude for all the complaining you were doing because you realize it ain't that bad. Somebody's house burned down today. It ain't that bad. Somebody didn't wake up. It ain't that bad. Somebody lost their loved one. It is not that bad, right? And sometimes it is that bad. Sometimes it's your turn, right? Because we all get turns in this thing called life. God has no respect to person. He respects the person who respects the person he created, and that's you. And so your job is, your job is to concentrate on you. It is to fill you up. It is to get into relationship with God that you're so connected that the things that are coming at you do not scare you, but only instill in you that he is processing you for a promise that is greater than you could understand. He is preparing you for a throne that you didn't even think imaginable when you were going through the test of time, right? And so when you were studying and when you were persevering and when you were making all those things happen, at the end of all of that, guess what happened? You happened. You got to become who God called you to be. You got to be the evidence of what it looks like to surrender to the things that you cannot change in order to be the change that somebody else is looking for. And so, what will your job be in life? What will be that hang up that holds you back, but your value is found in that valley moment? What is the valley moment that made you who you are? What did you get tenfold over? I can tell you, I went through some things. I got molested, but tenfold over, I found an amazing husband to love me, right? Why? Because it wasn't about what I went through. It's about what I surrendered to and what I believed in, what I chose to resurrect from. And so you can resurrect from that bad relationship and God can give you 10 times over. You can resurrect from that feeling of despair and God can heal your mind. You can resurrect from that lost feeling alone and isolated, because God said, when I isolate you, I allow you to become that butterfly. I allow you to process through the shit. Excuse my French, because we all know that when a caterpillar, is becoming a butterfly, they must process. And in that process, there is the stuff comes out of the tail end, and we call that, we know what. And in the stuff coming out of the tail end, it cocoons them to be alone. And then it processes them into that beautiful butterfly. And so sometimes you got to let the stuff go in order to get cocooned into the thing that makes you so amazing, that makes you the answer to somebody, to be the colorful person that you are, to live the life that makes you seem so resilient and so worthy of all the things that are coming to you and all the things that are waiting in the timeline of your destiny. And so I hope that when you have time, you go back into the book of Job and you read in its entirety. And like I said, I love that God that we started at 42, because it's the end of the story. And sometimes we need to understand that God starts at the end and then he works his way to the beginning. That's how it's always been. And so your end is already designed with you in mind. Your end already has destiny attached to it because of all that you all that you have been through in the time up until today. And so it's about loving on yourself. It's about seeing yourself. It's about celebrating you in order to be who God called you to be through it all. And so again, I say, do not forget to take some time to read about Job if it's something that you never read about. If you don't have a Bible right now, please use this amazing phone that you're watching me on, because the world is such an amazing place that you can go right into your little Google, pick up Job and pull up the whole verse and just read it. You can even let it read to you, right? That's how powerful what it means to show up in your assignment. You get to be the difference in the world so that you can add and not take away to somebody else's life, right? God says give to receive. And so I hope that you received this word on today. I hope you receive the job that God has given you to not surrender no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter what your story looks like. Know that you are the answer. Know that without your soul, without your mindset, without your experience, somebody else would never be able to get over that bridge. And so you are so valuable, you are so important, and that's why this ministry is about I choose me, hashtag no more excuses. Because when I take care of me and you take care of you, then everything else gets done. And so I want to leave you with a reminder that there are no walls, floors, or ceilings to what God can do through you when you choose you, when you celebrate you, when you get about the work of God and get that job over with, Job over with, and show up in your destiny because you have been pre-qualified and you just got to be modified. And going through a modification can be hard, but I promise you, it's like fine wine. It's not about the stomping of the grapes. That's the part we want to skip over. But we do enjoy the delight of the wine, right? Whether it's to commune with somebody or whether it's just to have a cocktail hour. Whatever that looks like, you understand that wine took time in order to be what it is, right? It was a process. So remember that God is processing you like he is processing me, like he is processing the world. So don't run away from the process. Remember, when you show up for you, you show up for everybody else. So without further ado, I want you to know that the doors of your soul are now open. Please go into yourself, surrender to you, get in relationship with God. Meditate on how worthy you are. Meditate on all the things that you have been through in their life that appears to relate to Job in some way. And as you're reading that chapter, see the similarities in you too. And while you're looking at the similarities, don't forget about the promise that's attached to the process. So if you're complaining, remember there is something great that you're going to get for what you endured and what you went through for somebody else to show up. So don't go through all of that and keep it to yourself. Oh, no, no, no. You got to share it with somebody else. You got to give them your story so God can get the glory, and then you become the evidence for them to stand up in the same story with a different chapter, right? And so I love, love, love you. I want to remind you that this is every Saturday at 7 p.m. Maybe next time you can come outside, enjoy the breeze, get a hug, and just share what God is doing in your life so that you can commune with other people and relate to them so the ship can move and that we can help each other through so that the healing can become. It is a healing that must take place in this season. So, as you know, that it is a relay race and somebody is relying on you to turn your heartbeat into a soul beat in order to leave your soul print, because the fingerprint tells us what you got wrong in this world, but the soul print, it tells us what you got right. And what God got right is you. So remember, we don't compete. Oh, no, no, no. We complete. And the difference between those two words is an L. And the L stands for love, and love goes everything. So don't forget to love yourself first. And remember, you can never turn on anybody else's light, but you can provide enough light for them to find their switch. So stay lit in this world so somebody can find their way out of the darkness. It is your responsibility. You have been tuned into I Choose Me Healing Ministry, where there are no walls, floors, or ceilings to what God can do through you when you choose you. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys back here next Sabbath, Saturday service at 7 p.m. live or in the building. Love you. Live or live. Bye bye. See you later.